So you heard a slightly different beginning to our theme this morning because I was using VoiceOver, which is the accessible screen reader on my iDevice. If any of you out there have an iDevice, there's lots of accessibility features that can be harnessed from that, including features for people with blindness or low vision, VoiceOver, and screen magnification. As well, recently I've started playing with other ones called Assistive Touch and also a switch control, so that if you have some difficulties with your hands or touching the screen or tapping, doing all these gestures. I'm reading a really fascinating book called iOS Access for All, which lets me know all about these features and features for people who have hearing loss and all of that. And that's the really great thing that Apple did out of the box. Accessibility. And I think it's kind of what Keenan is doing at LiveWorkPlay. Accessibility for everybody, and everybody should have, we were talking about this downstairs, work, meaningful work, and places to live, and we shouldn't put any boundaries on people. So that's some of what we're going to talk about today with our folks from LiveWorkPlay. So I think maybe we can ask Keenan first, why did you start LiveWorkPlay 20 years ago, and what did you think was going to happen, and then what have you noticed that has happened?
Well, there's no question about it. In a lot of ways, it was a mistake. Because I came from a place of not meeting very many people with disabilities, or at least not knowing that I had met any, most of my life. And I made an accident applying for a job in my first year of university at the old Manpower Center, as they called it, on Rideau Street. And I didn't understand. It said looking for someone to support youth with developmental challenges. And I thought maybe that was kids from underprivileged or from economically disadvantaged families. And so I had some experience and I applied on that basis. And then I was sitting in the interview and realized this is definitely not about that. And I somehow got this job. And what happened was, for the first time in my life, I met a person with a label of autism. I met a person with a label of Down syndrome. And I said, well, isn't this strange? Where have these interesting people been my entire life? And I got very angry because I realized they'd been kept away from me and I'd been kept away from them. And so, although I didn't stay in that job for a very long time, it stuck with me that there's something wrong in our community, that they are keeping people apart in their schools or in workplaces or just in community venues. And I went and did many other things before I came back to that. I'd say a big reason, meeting my wife, who is similarly inspired to social change issues. But in a nutshell, I got angry, and that's where it all started. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
And tell us what LiveWorkPlay does, and then we'll introduce our two people that participate in the services of LiveWorkPlay. What does it do?
Excellent. Well, our snappy little mission statement just says helping the community welcome people with intellectual disabilities to live, work, and play as valued citizens. And what that looks like is, yes, we work with about 100 individuals, and it depends on the person. We help with living situations, we help with employment, and we help with people's social lives. Basically, there's no limit to what we'll support a person, either directly or helping them find the help that we need. But then I think the bigger piece in the last 5 years, we've realized a lot of our work is not with labeled individuals, it's with the community that needs help with their attitudes and practices, and finding welcoming people and basically introducing them to our members has been a huge part of our work as we've sort of made a transition from a site-based service to basically helping our members get connected and be connected to the community.
So Keenan, so you seem, when you're talking about it, you seem so upbeat, so uplifting when it is, which is fantastic to hear. But what would you say was the most memorable experience while doing this?
Boy, there's some of those. The big moments are anytime anyone gets their first job, first paycheck, or keys to their apartment. I think those sorts of moments stand out, but I think also other moments such as people getting, perhaps making a real friend for the first time in a long time. Maybe they left high school and they lost touch with everyone and they've been a bit isolated, and then we've connected them. And just the excitement of someone saying, you know, I went shopping with Jim, and just seeing how excited they are, and then me realizing, I think this person, although a very upbeat, positive person, has probably been really isolated for a long time. And what a nice thing that this person introduced them to, and they get along. And because the value of a friendship, you know, there's all this impact measurement in the charitable sector, and I'm all for it. We got to know what we're doing. But how do you put a price on someone that hasn't had a friend for 20 years? And you are able to make a match. So that's another type of thing that gets me out of bed in the morning.
It's amazing. So let's introduce our two other guests here. Who would like to talk first, do you think?
Hi, I'm Ryan, and I'm from LiveWorkPlay. I've been with LiveWorkPlay for about 8 years.
Okay, and you want to tell us a little bit, whatever you feel comfortable, about your disabilities?
I have an intellectual disability and some mental issues, and which is depression and anxiety. And I get help from LiveWorkPlay dealing with some of that stuff. And I also get help with a lot of other things.
Yeah, and I think, is there something you'd like people to know about your disability or about people with disabilities?
I just want people to know that people with disabilities can do most anything, and that I'm not afraid to try anything new.
It's great. You know, I think I know because of my disability that it's not the biggest barrier. The barrier is the things that people put in front of me, not what my disability is. It's people not being open and not being aware, I think. And so that you said that really great. So Carolyn, you want to tell us about your disability a little bit?
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to say I have a learning disability, mental disability, and also I have depression and anxiety, and also I like to get a job, and once I learn the job, I can do it, but I have to do it twice, because to get it explain it twice to me. And that's part of my disability and the concept. And also groceries and shopping and budgeting. My worker helps me, Danielle Harris. And also, I used to live in a residence with 30 people. And I moved with Jen Cunningham for 3 years. After the 3 years, I lived in the residence, and then with Jen Cunningham, I lived with her, and then I moved out on my own. So I get extra help on my own with, like I mentioned, budgeting, groceries, and sometimes cooking, and also cleaning my apartment. And I get also friends that I met through LiveWorkPlay. It's Christine, Laura, and Valerie. And I don't know what I'd do without them. And thank you to Keenan and Julie. I don't know what I would do without them also, because it's been like a family. And it's a wonderful place to be with for 20 years.
Yeah, you started right at the beginning with Keenan. So that's amazing. And you were telling me downstairs that there were times where people said you could never live on your own, and you are.
And now I can.
And you are, yeah. It's pretty amazing.
And I have arthritis, I have arthritis, osteoarthritis, and I get around. It's hard to get a job, but I can do sitting job, like data entry, and things like that.
It's amazing. So you
Thanks.
said you were nervous, but you don't sound nervous at all.
A little bit nervous.
You're very articulate. Everyone gets in here and they say they're nervous, but once they get in here, and I think part of it is, and I don't know if Lorne will agree with me, and then maybe he can introduce his song for us, that we all have disabilities in here. Well, maybe not Keenan. He might have to leave. But, okay. But we all have disabilities, and he might too. We don't know, really. But, and so that's one of the things that we wanted when we started the show, is to give people a voice, but not a voice in the media where we're treated as oddities or some kind of a really super person for just walking down the street or something like that. It's that portrayal of disabilities, people giving their own voice and talking about it, and we all understand the basics of it are the same. The disabilities are different, but the issues we are dealing with are the same, I think. I don't know. Lorne maybe has ideas.
Well, I think Kim, as always, is very thorough when she gives her her descriptions. But but I think we're all people at the end of the day, and we all have to live with life. So some people have different, I guess, as the public calls, hurdles or responsibilities during their days, and we just pretty much have to find different ways of approaching those issues and dealing with them. And just like any other issue, there's 10, 15, 20 different ways of going about actually solving that issue. So just having so many people with such a vast amount of knowledge in different things, it just gives us so much more light onto these different hurdles in life and how to approach them. As Kim was saying, I don't have a song, but these other three guys were telling me downstairs, they said that we want to hear one song. So maybe they want responsibilities during their days, and we just pretty much have to find different ways of approaching those issues and dealing with them. And just like any other issue, there's 10, 15, 20 different ways of going about actually solving that issue. So just having so many people with such a vast amount of knowledge in different things, it just gives us so much more light onto these different hurdles in life and how to approach them. So, and as Kim was saying, I don't have a song, but these other three guys were telling me downstairs, they said that we want to hear one song. So maybe they want to introduce it, and then we'll play it.
It was Keenan.
We could listen to Men Without Hats.
Pop music.
Pop music, yeah.
Yes, Pop Goes the World.
Yeah, Pop Goes the World.
All right, and we'll be right back after this.
There we go. That ended with a bang or something. It's a pop. So we were talking during the song about work and about accommodations. Because people with disabilities sometimes struggle to find the right accommodations. And I know that both Ryan and Carolyn were telling me that they'd been in several different living situations before they got their situation now. So, I don't know, Ryan, do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey? You lived in several different places, and you were saying some of them weren't quite right for you.
Yeah, so I used to, I was brought up in a military home where my dad was transferred around a lot. So I used to have trouble making friends and stuff. But anyway, we moved a lot. So when we moved to Ottawa, I lived with my parents for a bit. And that was great for a bit. But as I was growing up, I realized I needed to move on my own. And I told my mom and dad I needed to live on my own. So we got my first place.
So how did they feel about that? Were they supportive of that?
They were supportive,
yeah.
Yes. They were very supportive. So we got my first place, and it was pretty nice. But then I got an offer to move in a condo, which was in the west end of the city. and I lived there for about a year and a half, and I lived with I lived around all my friends, and it was a pretty big condo, but the condos weren't really for me. I was finding I was around my friends a little too much, and I wasn't used to all my friends knocking on the door. So anyway, I ended up through LiveWorkPlay and their help, getting a place through Nepean Housing, and I have been in this place now for about 4 years, and it's a great place to live. The neighbors are nice. They do socials, barbecues, you name it, and it's a lot of fun.
And I know, Carolyn, you had a bit of a journey. You were telling us before you were in a residence with 30 people, and that wasn't really for you.
No, it wasn't for me. I was mostly like a vegetarian, not vegetarian, like vegetate all the time.
You were bored.
I was bored. Like, I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, you were bored.
I was bored, and I didn't do any drawing. I didn't do anything like that. And also, I used to live in family homes, but the last one was 30 people at a residence. And then I moved with Jennifer Cunningham at 265 Poulet, and she helped a lot. And then I decided, okay, I'm ready to move on my own. Now I'm at 111 Catherine, and I live on my own in an accessible apartment, and I do grocery shopping, budgeting with Danielle Harris, and he shows me around the downtown, and sometimes I walk with my walker downtown a far distance, and I used to never do that until the walker I got, and now I can walk far distance, and it's really wonderful to have.
Would either of you like to give advice? Carolyn, do you have any advice for, maybe someone with a disability who's where you were before, not in the same place, but in that place where you said you were bored and you didn't do anything. What got you moving and started to get towards your own place?
Well, Keenan and Julie got me out of 30 the residence, and it's mostly thank you to them that they got me out of there, and then I started to draw and to paint, and did my own workshop, or not workshop, but art, selling my art on tables and art show, and my mom used to help me with that, and Pierre and my mom used to help me with that, and so that's what I did in the future. So that's what I did.
But this is, I don't know if Kim has the same feeling, but this is just absolutely amazing, just hearing about all of these things that people are doing, which others said that they couldn't do, and now they're just saying, you know what, no, I'm controlling of my own life, I'm moving forward with that. Now, what are your guys' dreams and aspirations for the future?
Going on trips. I went to a lot of trips with Keenan and Julie, and I don't know how many, but there was quite a few. Like, I went to Las Vegas, Miami, New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
What else? And Santa Monica and Montreal. I went to quite a few. I don't remember all of them.
Yeah, you love that too. And Ryan, do you have any advice for people that are maybe just starting out on the road that you started out on when you were thinking of moving out or doing more things on your own?
Yeah, I think that if you feel ready, it would be great to talk to your parents or brother or sister or a friend, and I think it would be great to try to get on your own, because when you're on your own, you things go pretty well. I mean, it's hard living, but you gotta just keep trying and pushing through things, barriers.
Yeah, and I know when people tell me I can't do something, then even if I didn't really want to do it before, I'm going to do it regardless of what someone says. Because the minute they say, well, there's no way your blind person could do that, then that's it. Okay, I'm going to do it. So you sound similar, you two, that you really stick with it. I don't know, Keenan, do you have any advice or anything to say for families or people with disabilities, maybe families or people that are supporting people, or do you have any words of wisdom for those people?
Well, I think we can learn a lot from Ryan and Carolyn, and when there's a reason why involved with about 100 people right now, and so kind of why these two for a radio show. If the other 98 are mad at me, I'll explain. It's because I didn't want to bring people that seemingly have all the constructs of the perfect life, like the job and everything's all set up. And the point is that Ryan and Carolyn, they still have a lot of goals and hopes and dreams, and everything's not going perfectly. But the point is there's a dignity in the struggle. And so a lot of times when we come across parents, they're really seeking a programmatic future for their kids. Like, if I could just get them into something, and they could just kind of stay there for 50 years, and then all our worries would be over. And it's just, if you listen to, and I learned this too, so if you listen to Ryan and Carolyn, the dignity of the struggle is very important, and that's life, like Lorne said a while back. And so life is a struggle, and so if you're looking for a life solution just because someone has a disability, if you're looking for a solution that avoids struggle, you're doing them a disservice, and you're also setting up a long-term dependency, because life is not a program. Life is a struggle, and that's where the highs and lows, and that's what it's all about.
That's amazing. And I think Keenan's been in the media recently as well for a decision that was made last week by our current federal government to cut some positions, and then they reversed that decision because there was a big backlash. But do you want to just briefly talk about that, because it's really been in the news, and you've been in the news, and even what you said about that you would have preferred a different resolution, as all of us with disabilities would have preferred that, I think.
Yeah, it's a complicated story, but I'll try and be somewhat concise. But back in the 70s, when unfortunately people like Ryan and Carolyn, they mostly would have been living in a place like Rideau Regional or Huronia, in a big institution out in the field somewhere. It was a big advancement when we came up with this idea of sheltered workshops, and you could put people on a bus and drive them into town, and they could go to an activity center and do something together, assemble something, or cook or do art or whatever. This was all huge progress from walking around the ward of an institution. But 40 years later, we still have a lot of the same things going on, and I think we've learned a lot more about the value of people with disabilities since then. And so the fact that we still have that system, I find a bit embarrassing as a professional in the field and as a human being. And so what happened with this situation is one of those workshops kind of came to light. The public isn't really aware that these things exist, and suddenly there came this whole issue of 50 people in one of these workshops, and that part of the economy of the workshop is based on a federal contract for paper sorting, and so the contract wasn't being renewed, and so then the program wasn't viable, and so came this big blow up that what are these 50 people going to do, and what's going to happen to them. And I just thought the whole thing was so badly mishandled, and put the 50 individuals who are completely innocent in the situation, put them into a very stressful and unfair time. And then unfortunately we didn't take the opportunity to say, is there another way of looking at this? Is it all about just keeping them doing the same thing? Or now that the federal government has come forward and said, actually no, it is not fair, and that's great, but could we look at them as 50 individuals rather than 50 people in a program? And maybe some of those 50 people are ready to not sort paper in a facility, and maybe they're ready to explore, like Carolyn and Ryan, the dignity of risk of exploring a job in the community.
Yeah, that's right. And they did reverse, but they didn't change it. So I think that's what we want is change forward. Like Ryan and Carolyn are doing, and like all of us with disabilities are living with dignity, and we make the choice to risk. If I make a choice to risk doing something that people think blind people can't do, that's up to me to decide, not up to someone else to decide. People can make comments about it, but that doesn't mean, I don't know. And I know, Lorne, do you have another question?
Well, just hearing about what Keenan was just saying about trying to go out and go forward and move with different things other than paper sorting. Besides now, has there been a lot of dialogue between you and the government of any sorts in regards to possibly creating another program or, another avenue for them to get work?
Well, that's a great question, because this is kind of the curious thing, because I have to say, this federal government has done a lot of research around people with disabilities, particularly in employment, and they had a federal panel with people like Mark Wafer, who's a Tim Hortons franchise owner, who specifically employs people with disabilities because he thinks they're the best workers. And he was on this panel, and they issued a report, and I thought it was a wonderful report. And here I thought, great, it's a federal government, it's about disabilities employment, and they'll look at their own research and findings, which was done mainly by employers, by the way. And this was employers saying, here's what we need to successfully value and take advantage of the great work ethic of people with disabilities. And instead we go back to a 1970s model. So really, I think they have all the answers, and they just need to look at their own findings. They've done some really good work, and consult with those types of employers. And I'm pretty sure, because I talked to him about it, if they'd asked a guy like Mark Wafer, he would have said, well, before we just start things up again as it was, why don't we look at some of the talents and abilities of these workers? Because a lot of the public reaction when there's a video and thing of them being upset with losing their jobs, but they're also, it became obvious that these were hard workers who would be great employees. And I thought, oh man, what an opportunity to showcase the talents of these individuals to local employers who, frankly, many are dealing with turnover issues and things in their businesses and would really benefit from, if these guys were dedicated enough to sort paper for 26 years, I'm betting they could do pretty well in some business somewhere.
Yeah, that's great. I think we'll let Lorne find a song for us. And Keenan, are there ways that people can get involved with Live Work Play? What kind of assistance do you need from the public, volunteers, or other things that people might help you with?
I'm so glad you asked, because Carolyn has been very kindly mentioning Keenan and Julie a lot. Keenan and Julie are increasingly in the background while other people are doing amazing things, and that includes, at this point, over 130 volunteers. And really, the type of volunteers we want are just people interested in getting to know other people, because we're in the relationships business more than anything. And so if you've got an interest, I bet you we know somebody of the 100 people we support who shares that interest, and you might want to go out in the community and share that together. And that's really the number one thing we need.
And I don't know if either Ryan or Carolyn are looking for any volunteers. Are you? And if you are, what would you like them to do with you?
For me, I'd like to have someone, well, I have Valerie drawing with me, but I'd like to have someone else drawing with me, because during the week I get lonely and I have no one around me, and sometimes Valerie and Laura and Christine, while they have their things to do, and sometimes while I see Valerie on Thursday, and Laura, I see her in April, and Christine, I see her this Friday. So it's not like all the time. Like, I like to have someone more like every day with me, and have company, and so I don't get so lonely and things like that.
Anything for you, Ryan? Are you looking for...
Well, I have a volunteer that walks with me and my dog, and I like to walk with my dog, and I'd like to walk with some more people, anyone who likes to walk. And I'm looking for some work, actually, at this point, and volunteer work or regular work, whatever. I'd like to try something new.
What kind of work would you like the most?
I'm looking for an office job, and maybe, photocopying things, faxing, whatever. I'd like to try anything.
And I know Carolyn's also looking for work, more data entry.
I'm actually looking for data entry, and I love doing computer, and I'm a wizard at it, and I love doing that. And I used to draw on the computer, and I like to have a job where I could draw on the computer. And I know some techniques on art, computer art, and so that's mostly part of what I love to do. That's my dream job.
So you people listening out there, you could snap these people up. That would be really good.
Carolyn is actually speaking in her second language, so she also offers bilingualism.
Yes, that's
French
right.
and English.
And that's great. Lauren might have a song for us.
I wish I could say I do, but again, just like our co-host that isn't here, she sent me something via an email, and she goes, she likes, quote unquote, I like Work for All by Johnny Clegg.
So we're having a lively discussion. Sometimes I think we should record some of these discussions when the music is on. We're having a really interesting discussion.
Fundraising.
About various things. And so I want to get from Keenan as well, because our hour always goes so quickly. And we've got Pat Moore coming up next. She's hosting for Martha Walsh. And I just want to give a shout out to Dick Altavista. He always retweets our tweets and everything. He's celebrating an anniversary. I think it's 10 years of Two Kinds of Music coming up tomorrow, Wednesday. And we knew each other when we were little kids. And I played with his Rock'em Sock'em robots. And I think I fell and cut my head in their swimming pool or something. Anyway, so I give you a big shout out, because I think our audience is aware that this is a volunteer situation that we have when we're hosting our shows. And it isn't just being on air for the hour, half hour, or 2 hours. There's a lot of work that goes into the radio show in the week leading up to it, and everybody here really loves what they do, and they do it because they love it. But it is a volunteer gig, and it's great. A lot of hosts have really long-standing relationships with CKCU, and we thank Matthew and all of the staff here for giving us such great support. So big shout out to Dick Altavista for his anniversary. And I just want to ask Keenan, if people do want to find out more about Live, Work, Play or get involved, what's the best way to get in touch with you or your organization?
Depends on what they like, I guess, but for those that are comfortable with the internet, I'm told we have a very vibrant and informative website at liveworkplay.ca. Otherwise, you could give us a call at 613-235-9550.
And I think you have Twitter at LiveWorkPlay as well, right?
Absolutely. We love social media.
So Twitter at LiveWorkPlay. And how you can get in touch with us here at Welcome to My World. And if you've forgotten how to get in touch with Keenan, I will put that up on our blog, which is at ckcudisabilities.wordpress.com. And also our Twitter feed is at CKCUWTMW. So WTMW for Welcome to My World. Facebook.com/CKCUWTMW. And our email is I'm forgetting, CKCUdisabilities@gmail.com. So that's our email address. If you have guests or you want to be on the show or you want to send little messages to our guests today, I'm happy to pass them on. Now, I handle all that side of the communication, and Shelley handles the CKCU part. So if you go to CKCU website, ckcu-fm.com, you can find a grid of programs, and you can look for Welcome to My World. That's a little tricky for some of our listeners who have disabilities to find. I find it a little tricky. So we were given our own page, which is at ckcufm.com/WTMW. So you can go right there and find archives of our shows, and this show will be archived right after we finish here on air. And you can add your voice in the comments section. So you can comment on the show or mention things you like about the show. If anyone has ideas for guests or they want to be on the show, please let us know that as well. And I know Lorne is getting excited because in 3 weeks he will have a guide dog. So that's very exciting. I'm getting excited too. And then there'll be 2 in the studio. Not that we don't have enough people in the studio all the time. We got dogs and people and everything. So I think, Lorne, you're getting pretty excited, are you?
I don't want to psych myself out too much. I know Kim and Shelley are actually more excited than I am, as, of course, for your first one, you always kind of get nervous because there's so much stuff that you have to kind of prepare for. But then you've got these other 2 pros that are just, I'm so happy for you. This is fantastic. So I'm getting excited, but by them always ramping me up, I'm also getting nervous, and I usually don't get nervous. So it's this is very interesting. Let's put it that way.
So Lorne has some vision, but has lost some vision, and so he's getting a dog, and that'll be great to have 2 dogs. And we also work together in the same office space in my other job as coordinator of the Get Together with Technology program. So there'll be 2 dogs in that space, so that'll be exciting. I don't know what Tulia will think about it. Maybe a young dog coming in. No, she'll be okay. So that's very exciting news. I don't think anyone has announcements for us. So I don't know, do any of the 3 of you have any final words before we have to close off?
Actually, I'm on Facebook, and you can look me up. I have some art drawings on Facebook.
And how would they look you up? Can you spell your...
Carolyn, I-N-E, Matt, M-A-T-T-E, and you can look me up there.
I have a quick suggestion, though, because if they go to the LiveWorkPlay Facebook page, you're often active on there, and then they could find, and we sometimes post your art, so that would be easy.
Yeah.
So LiveWorkPlay, do you look up LiveWorkPlay on Facebook
Exactly.
and find Carolyn's art, and because that'll be really good. And I know you want to start to sell your art more.
Yeah, I want to sell my art.
Yeah.
It's cool stuff.
It's cool stuff. I do abstract, I do people, I do cartoon.
That's awesome.
I do freehand, and also painting, and
You're very creative. And Ryan, do you have any final words for our audience?
I just want to say thank you for having me on the show. It was great to talk about everything I talked about, and thanks to LiveWorkPlay and the volunteers and the staff.
And Keenan, you have anything else?
No, just it's been a great 20 years, and I know we got a lot of thanks, but it's hard to explain. But this has been the greatest thing that ever happened to me, is the honor of being a part of supporting people's lives. That's nothing better. So thanks to everybody who's made that possible for me.
And we thank you for being on. It's always amazing to me. I always love each show we do because I always learn a lot, and I love to hear the voices of people on the air and getting out into the community. So
and thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, we're excited. And Lorne, you any final words? And then you're going to introduce our last piece, and Pat Moore will be coming up after that.